The first thing I felt when I opened my eyes was panic, sharp and cold, because the room did not feel empty. The air was warmer than it should have been, heavier, carrying the faint scent of soap and something softer, human. My heart started racing before my mind could catch up, and when I finally turned my head, I saw her sitting on the edge of my bed, sunlight brushing her hair, as if she had always belonged there. That was the moment my ordinary life cracked open, because waking up and finding a woman in your room changes the way you breathe, the way you remember your past, and the way you imagine your future. Before the story pulls you deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet moments that change lives forever, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who loves emotional stories, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a story that speaks to the heart. My name is Andrew Carter, and I lived alone in a small town in Colorado, tucked between long roads and endless pine trees. My house was modest, the kind of place that held more silence than sound, more memories than furniture. After my wife passed away 3 years earlier in a car accident just outside Denver, the walls learned my grief better than any person ever could. I worked as a mechanic, fixing engines all day and returning home every night to a house that never asked questions. I told myself that routine was enough, that loneliness was safer than hope. But that morning, with a stranger in my room, routine disappeared. She looked just as surprised as I felt, her posture careful, her eyes carrying exhaustion that went deeper than lack of sleep. She explained calmly, without drama, that she was only staying for one night. Her name was Grace Miller, a name that felt too meaningful for coincidence. And she said it with the kind of quiet honesty that made me listen instead of panic. She wore borrowed clothes, my old sweatshirt hanging awkwardly on her, and in that moment she didn't look like someone dangerous. She looked like someone running from something heavy. The night before came back to me in broken pieces. A storm had rolled in suddenly, rain turning the roads into mirrors. I remembered driving back from work and seeing a car pulled over near the old bridge, hazard lights blinking like a silent plea. I remembered stopping, something I rarely did anymore, and finding her standing there, soaked and shaking, her phone dead, her car refusing to start. I remembered offering help without thinking too hard, because sometimes kindness moves faster than fear. I remembered giving her my couch and telling myself it was just for one night. What I didn't remember was inviting her into my room. That confusion stayed with me, gnawing at my thoughts, until she explained that the storm had worsened, the power had gone out, and something about the darkness had triggered a panic attack so severe she couldn't breathe alone. She hadn't wanted to wake me, but had ended up there anyway, sitting quietly until morning. She never touched me, never crossed a line, and somehow that made the situation more emotional than anything else could have. Over coffee, the silence between us felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. Grace didn't overshare, but what she did say carried weight. She had left an abusive relationship 2 days earlier in Kansas, packed what she could fit into her car, and driven without a clear destination. Her voice never shook, but her hands did, and I recognized that kind of strength. It was the strength of someone who had survived by becoming quiet. Letting her stay longer wasn't part of my plan, but grief teaches you that plans don't protect you from pain. She stayed one more day, then another, sleeping on the couch, helping me cook dinner, filling the house with sounds it hadn't known in years. I told myself it was temporary, that she would leave once her car was fixed, once she felt safe enough to keep going. But the truth was that every extra day made the house feel less like a tomb and more like a place where life could still happen. The biggest challenge wasn't the fear of getting hurt again. It was the guilt. Loving someone new felt like betraying the woman I lost, as if my heart had a limited capacity, and choosing joy meant erasing memory. Grace never pushed, never asked for explanations, but she seemed to understand. Some nights we sat in the living room, not speaking, just sharing space, and that felt more intimate than words ever could. Her car was fixed within a week. I watched from the porch as she loaded her bag, my chest tight in a way I hadn't felt since the funeral. She reminded me that she had only needed one night, and that everything beyond that was a gift. When she drove away, the house went quiet again, but it wasn't the same silence as before. It was filled with echoes of laughter, with the memory of footsteps that had warmed the floor. Days passed, then weeks. I thought about her more than I admitted to myself. I found myself cooking meals meant for two, fixing things that didn't need fixing, waiting for something without knowing what. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived, handwritten, from Grace. She wrote about finding work in a nearby town in Utah, about starting therapy, about learning how to sleep without fear. She thanked me not for the roof, but for the kindness that reminded her she wasn't invisible. We began writing back and forth, slowly, carefully. No promises, no labels, just honesty. Months later, she visited. Then again. Each time, the distance between us felt smaller, not just in miles, but in fear. Love didn't arrive like a thunderstorm. It came like sunrise, gentle and unavoidable. If this story is touching something inside you, if it reminds you of someone you lost or someone you're afraid to love, please take a moment near the end to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps these stories reach hearts that need them. The last time Grace stayed over, it wasn't because she had nowhere else to go. It was because she chose to. We sat on the porch, watching the sky turn gold over the mountains, and I realized that the woman who stayed for one night had changed my life forever. She taught me that kindness doesn't always lead to loss, that sometimes it opens doors you thought were sealed for good. Before this story ends, I have one special request for you. Please comment below and share what kindness means to you, or a moment when a stranger changed your life in an unexpected way. That morning I woke up and found a woman in my room. I thought something had gone wrong. Now I know something went right. Sometimes the most beautiful chapters begin when you least expect them, when fear and hope meet in the same breath, and when one night turns into a lifetime of healing.